Frequently asked questions regarding ayahuasca, the brewing and the drinking of. That's what I'm here to look at this afternoon. I've had a lot of different questions and queries as a result of the films I've got on YouTube about brewing this particular plant spirit mix. So what I'll do is I'll go through the questions I've had and answer them as clearly and accurately as I can do. So the first series of questions all revolve on how much do you use of this and that to brew, and about other things that you might put in and such like. So the first thing I want to explain is you've got two compounds. You've got the actual DMT containing compound, and you've got the monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which frees your consciousness to be able to receive the benefits of the first. So the one that contains the DMT, traditional Amazonian, is called Chancruna, and Bunastropsis carpi is the inhibitor. These are the two that you have together in the traditional brew. If you're using traditional brew of Chancruna and carpi, for one dose you want 30 grams of each. So if you're going to produce 10 doses, you're going to end up using 300 grams of each. So let's keep it to 10 doses throughout all our conversations as a nice simple thing to go for, and you can adjust accordingly. So in this pan, if I'm brewing 10 doses, then I'm going to have 300 grams of Chancruna and 300 grams of carpi. And I'm going to boil it up in 10 litres of water, which is what this holds. It's a good amount of water to use, and it's going to reduce down over a period of at least 12 hours. So if you prefer instead to use Mimosa hostilis, which is becoming very popularly used for brews, that contains a DMT active ingredient, you have the Mimosa and the carpi, then you're going to have 10 grams of Mimosa and 30 grams of carpi. So if you're making up 10 doses, 10 times 10 is 100 grams of Mimosa and 300 grams of carpi. So in my container here, if I'm using Mimosa, 100 grams of Mimosa, 300 grams of carpi. So that's another option. Then I'll give you the final option, which is not to use the carpi. Supposing you don't have access to carpi, something else you can use is called Syrian rue. If you were to do a brew for Syrian rue, you would have 10 grams of Mimosa and 3 grams of Syrian rue. So if you're going to do a brew for 10, it's going to be 100 grams of Mimosa and 30 grams of Syrian rue. So those are your starting points. Either you're going to be having Chancruna and carpi, 30 grams of each per dose. Mimosa and carpi, 10 grams of Mimosa and 30 grams of carpi for each dose. Or you're going to be having Mimosa and Syrian rue, 10 grams of Mimosa, 3 grams of Syrian rue per dose. So that's the dosage information. If you get stuck, just go back to this bit of the film. That's the crucial bit you want to keep hold of. Then you're going to be brewing in 10 litres of water, and we're going for 10 doses. Why are we going for 10 doses? Well, I'll explain. Because for one person, it's likely they're going to have one dose, or maybe 2 doses, or maybe at the most 3. So that gives you what you could use your 10 doses for. So it could be 3 people having 3 doses each. You can work out the permutations yourself. But you have the 10 litres of water, and you're reducing it down over a period of 12 hours until it gets to the point where there's a load of plant material in the bottom of the pan, and there's some liquid, and you can see the plant material, the liquid has really dropped down to such an extent. That's when you come out with a strainer, and you strain the brew from this pan into a pan with a size that's going to fit the strainer very nicely, pour it all through, and you're going to end up with probably something like half a litre, no more than say a litre and a half of liquid by the time you do that. You then want to put the remaining cleared liquid that you've filtered through this. It'll still be cloudy, but you've got rid of all the bits by filtering it through the strainer. You then want to do the final reduction. You do the final reduction in a smaller pan, and you want to reduce it down to a level. We'll keep all the conversation on the 10 doses to make this work, okay? So this is the thing, this is where people get confused, because the amount of liquid you end up with is actually your choice. And it depends on whether you want a thick brew where you drink a really small amount, or you'd rather have a thinner brew, which is easy to sip, but you'd have to drink much more of it. And what I tend to do, I tend to go for 50 millilitres. I think a reasonable dose for a person to take is 50 millilitres. So we're going to base everything on that, and you can go up from that or down from that. So that really is up to you. But based on the 50 millilitre dose, which is not a thick one, it's a kind of a medium consistency. Well, if it was 50 millilitres dose, and you start off with material for 10 doses, it means you can reduce this down to 500 millilitres, which is half a litre. This is a bit that I think has caused confusion for some people in the past, so that's what you need to know. You're going to reduce it down to 500 millilitres. If you do that, that's going to be 10 times 50 millilitres, and that will give you your answer for the amount you're going to drink. So you do have the control about the final volumes. Now you've got your small pan, maybe it's 1200 millilitres, you're reducing it down to 500. You can imagine this is a bit you've got to be careful. When you've been reducing it down from 10 litres to around about a litre, that's been easy, but that actually takes hours, and you just keep on looking at it every now and again. When you've got your final brew that you've put through the strainer in the smaller pan, this is when you don't leave it, you just stay present. The whole thing is going to take no more than about 30 minutes, depending on how much you start with and how fast you boil it. But it's going to go down fast, really quickly, so don't walk away. And you want to have an idea about what 500 millilitres actually looks like in the saucepan that you're using for that final part of the process. So, a bit of common sense, you might just think to yourself, I'll put a measured 500 millilitres of water in my empty pan, pour it in, so I can see whereabouts on the side of the pan it's going to fall to, so I know what I'm doing. Final reduction, that's about right. Pour it into a measuring jug, a measuring cylinder till it's 500. Here's a tip to make it easy for you. If you reduce it to a little bit less than 500, it's a piece of cake. Get a bit of plain mineral water and just top it up to the right level. So you've got your 500 millilitres, that's your clue. So based on having a 50 millilitre drink, that's the amount you want to aim for. So I do hope that's clarified all these issues about quantities and weights and measures, which I know if you're not used to it, it's a bit to get your head around. So thanks very much for that. If you want to have the question answered, where do I buy my ingredients, it depends on what country you're in. I can really give no advice about countries outside of the UK. My only general advice would be to go on the internet, of course. So you go on the internet and you can put in the names Mimosa hostilis, or you can put the name Ayahuasca, or you can put the name Banisteropsis carpi. That will all lead you to different sites. There's a company called Opal Herbs, O-P-A-L. I certainly recommend them. And then that brings me to the issue, and this is just for viewers in the UK, and that's information about the legal situation. Now there has been some confusion about this, because up until certainly last year it was regarded to be something that there was no legal implication at all. People were absolutely fine to sell the products openly. Then there was a case of a firm having some supplies impounded by the customs taken away, and after some months they actually got their products returned to them, so that was a positive thing. And then there was a negative experience where one particular group decided to import very large amounts to create a test case, and as a result of that there's now a court case which was referred through to the higher court in about February time, which won't come to be looked at until July, I believe. So at the moment in this country, if you want to know the strict situation legally, you'd have to go again and look on the internet, because it's in a state of flux. So on the one hand you can buy these products, on the other hand they are being impounded, on the other hand the impounded goods are being returned, on the other hand there is a court case. And other than that, I suggest you check for the internet for the latest information about legalities. Hello everyone. I'm returning from Ayahuasca experience. I'm inhabiting this body again. This has been such a deep experience. This is such a deep experience, and it's very, very funny. That's the whole thing to remember. It's so funny, this experience. Here I am choosing to have an experience, and this is what we're all doing. We're all choosing all the time. We're all choosing to have an experience.